Right.
And she goes, it was an internship. So she goes, I'll tell you what, it was close to the end.
Right.
She goes, I'm going to give you your credits. I'm going to give you your points, but that's it. We can't.
Right.
I said, okay. And then she was very nice. Her name's Sarah McCall, if she ever sees this. She came to see me like when we would do big holiday shows in Maine. And we'd sell like 15,000 tickets in a week. And she came to the show and she came up to me and she goes, do you remember me? And I just gave her a big hug. I go, oh my God. She goes, you made it. And I was like, okay, it worked. But
Absolutely.
But I could never do that. I couldn't be stuck in a cubicle. I'd go nuts.
Well, you know, when I got into comedy, because it was the early 80s, and all of a sudden I found out that there were jobs.
Yeah.
And I got into it, and I realized pretty quick, I go, shit, my friends that are trying to act in New York and L.A., if they're lucky to get something, and when they do, it's going to end, and then you got to go get something else. This comedy thing seems like there's work all the time, and I really never thought of it as a career at first. I thought of it as a side income while I would try to get into the acting eventually. But then it just kept being, there was plenty of work, and it was fun, and then you had complete control over what you wanted to do, you know, however you wanted to be.
I'm so happy now the way the industry is set up because it doesn't have to go through Hollywood.
Right.
You don't have to have the vetting process with the approval of some guy in a suit that says yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
Correct.
And it's really great because you used to have to go to LA, go to New York, and then inevitably you'd have people saying you should be an actor. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want to do. I was there 11 years in Los Angeles, and I did movies and all that, and had a lot. We had fun, but I hated auditions because I'm like, this is wasting my day.
Well, you know, you did the thing that I've said to so many acts. After I'd been in it for 20 years, and especially as a comic and a club owner, I tell an act, I go, how many years you been coming to this club? 15 years. 15 years.
Yeah.
I go, do you think in 15 years that you could sell my room out for one show on a Tuesday or Wednesday night for $25?
Yeah.
You've been there for 15 years.
Right.
All you need's 250 to 270 people.
Right.
I go, because if you can do that,
yeah,
I will give you the door
right.
on a Tuesday or Wednesday night.
Right.
And you will make more money that night than what I'm paying you for the week.
Right.
And you could do that in every single club you've been playing for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
But the goof is you can't do that.
Right.
And most comics can't.
Yeah.
They never build that following. You, on the other hand, and a few guys, and there's not a ton of comics like you, built that, and you built it in a region where you go, I can stay home.
Right.
I can stay home and never have to go further than 6 hours from my house and make a career.
It's really
and make
funny.
Great money.
It's really funny because when I lived in Los Angeles, I would constantly be going back to Maine to do shows and to visit my family. And then I would do shows at the Comedy Connection in Portland, Maine, and I was always having to change my set. So I was constantly be writing. And Greg Fitzsimmons, who's a good friend, he goes, you have like 22 albums. He goes, I bet those are all Grammy worthy. And he starts laughing. I go, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, there would be 20 minutes of regional stuff about shit that happened around town.
Sure.
And 20 minutes of current event stuff that happened. And then there would be about 20 minutes that normal guys might write on the road every year.
Right, right.
And so I got that muscle like in the late 90s to do that like constantly all the time. And then when the internet came and it wiped out so many acts because they had an hour and they were touring with it for 20 years.
Right.
I had already had the muscle to write stuff and change stuff. So I just kind of kept doing that. And then I found this thread where like, I started talking about my family more, and I'm like, oh, this is a sitcom.
Right.
And I have all the characters in place. There's about 12 different characters, and I'm writing for all those people. And things happen, and I'm like, that's perfect. I go to a Christmas party, and I pick up 25 minutes.
Exactly.
And it becomes easier and easier to write because you know who you are.
Right.
You know what you're doing. And then people follow along, and then, I just was in New England so much, I was able to build it up.
Well-
and I love it there. I don't really have a huge desire to be on the road at all, because it's just, I think at some point, if you, as a comedian, you have to have some kind of a life outside of comedy.
Yes.
You'll go nuts.
Yes, the road. Yeah, I've said the road begets the road.
Yeah.
You're not getting discovered in Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
I mean, that's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not what's going to happen. And it's like, that's the thing I would say to comics. I go, what you want to try to do is once you get good at this, you've been a headliner for a while, and you really, I go, you need to start thinking about the quality of your life.
Yeah.
And where do you want to live? Where do you want to be?
Yeah.
You know, is it New York or LA?
Yeah.
If it is,
And
you
cool.
love it there,
Yeah.
great. But if it's somewhere in Maine, if it's Sarasota, Florida, if it's the mountains of North Carolina, you know, you need to start thinking about, how can I create a life there, which is where I want to be, and I'm going to be in love with my life there, and then create a foundation of income through what you do.
Yep.
That puts you in that
And then
place.
also decide, like, why am I doing this? Like, am I doing this just to be famous? And, you know, all that stuff, you know, like I started in Maine, went to Boston, went to Los Angeles, and then I came at a point in Los Angeles, so I was like, I would do showcase nights every single night on Sunset Strip.
Right.
And then industry guys would walk in nonstop, and I'm like, I just want to work on stuff. I want to comede. I'm a comedian.
Right.
I want to verb it. I want to comede. And you could never do that, because you'd get ready to go on, and all of a sudden 5 guys from NBC would walk in. Now you're like, well, now I can't go up there and grind stuff out, because
Right.
Right. We were in it to try to get a show on TV. So I got to a point where I was like, I just want to be a comedian. I love that. I love the craft of it. I love, like, writing jokes, and I think you're fine once you get to that point where you realize, this is what I really, really, really want to do.
Right.
I don't care what the level I get to. I don't care. You know, it doesn't have to be this thing where, like, I'm doing 45 arenas this year. I'm like, where do you go? I mean, that's great if you can get to that.
If you could do it,
I would if I could get to that and go once, I'd do one loop,
right?
And then I'd be like, I'm done. But to go to arenas year after year after year, like, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and once again, is that going to create the quality of life that you want? It's going to make you personally the happiest you can be.
Yeah.
And we all know, we've all seen super successful people that are miserable motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I mean, miserable.
Yeah.
And they got, you know, and so that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, and I've told this story many times, you know, Pam my wife has a master's degree in theater. I have a bachelor of fine arts in theater. When we decided to get married, we wanted, I know we need to be somewhere where we have a home base, and I'm not away from you more than I'm with you, And that was going to be LA at the time. But I was like, but we didn't like LA as a place to live. We would never choose there to live, but it's corporate headquarters for where you're going, blah, blah, blah. So the more we talk about it, more we're dreading it, kind of, but we were going to go.
Yeah.
So I said, look, fast forward. We're 10 years from now, and it worked. It worked. One of us is going to walk into an office today and sign a contract, and here's what that contract says. Go buy a house where you want, pretty much wherever you want. I said, Pam, where's our house?
Right.
Where's our house? And she said, in Sarasota, on the beach on Siesta Key.
That's
and
awesome.
I said, not Malibu, not Beverly Hills, not. She goes, fuck no. She goes, we don't want to live there. We might buy a condo there to keep for when, but we want to live there.
Yeah.
I said, so here's $1 million question. Do you have to have the mansion with the Bentley?
Yeah.
Or would you, or what do you think about the 2,000 square foot house with a Toyota and live there forever?
Yeah.
And maybe get a little comedy room that we do on the weekends. And she goes,
make it work.
I would love that.
Yeah.
And I said, me too. Let's
Yeah.
go there first, and let's see if we can make that happen. And if it doesn't happen, we'll move to LA.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's just that thing of finding where you want to be
Yeah.
and then creating a life around it. You
once
don't have to be super famous.
No, but
to
once you
be-
figure out what like the actual art of doing it, of doing stand up and not just being hung up on Netflix and everything else, all that stuff
Well,
that
let me tell you another
people
little
chase
story
nonstop.
that was a real eye opener for me early on. I was in the theater department at University of Memphis. I was about a year in. I was waiting tables, and this girl and this man and woman were sitting at the table, and the man didn't say much at all, and I didn't say much to him at all, and I was kind of flirting with her, and she was very pretty blonde, and Kim Smith. She worked for the BBC. She gave me her card, lived in Hong Kong. And once again, the guy didn't, but I know whenever I'd go walk away from the table, they were a couple that would immediately start talking, you know. So he knew I was flirting with her, and they were, you know, and I was being a punk.
Yeah.
And because I was probably 23 years old.
Yeah.
And I was pumping myself up. Yeah, I'm in the theater department. I think this is my thing, da, da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da. So they get ready to pay the check, and Kim goes, hey, you know, you want to be an actor and everything like that. There's somebody I think you should meet, a good friend of mine. And she goes, Les, meet Gig Young. Now, Gig Young in the 50s and 60s was a star
Yeah.
on television and in movies. And I had just seen Gig Young 5 years earlier in a movie called They Shoot Horses, Don't They, with Jane Fonda, and he won the Academy Award for Best
Wow.
Supporting Actor.
No way.
So when that guy looked up at me, I was like,
Oh shit. Yeah.
holy shit.
That's
And I was like, at first I said, I'm so sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Young, that I was such an asshole.
yeah.
And he laughed and da, 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 da. So I was like, and he was there at University of Memphis doing a play, Long Day's Journey in the Night, as a guest artist, blah, blah, blah. So a year later, I open up the Memphis Commercial Appeal, and there on the second page, Gig Young double suicide with partner Kim Smith. He killed her and killed himself. Murder suicide. He killed her and killed himself. And he was probably at the time, I don't know if he was maybe in his early 60s or something like that.
Wow.
Now, I'm sitting there myself going, that guy
Had
is
everything.
everything I want.
Mhm.
He's everything I want to be.
Yeah.
And he shot himself in the fucking head.
Yeah.
There's something more to this than
Yes.
fame and
Yes.
fortune.
Yeah.
There's something more to life
Yeah.
as a man in my early 20s, and that made obviously a great impression on
Yeah.
me. And I think I even in my own way put in my brain,
Yeah.
it's not about that.
Right.
So don't
That's
think
crazy.
that's what's going to be
Yeah.
what's going to make you
Yeah.
happy,
Whole. Yeah.
happy,
Yeah.
because it ain't that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, hey, show's starting. I got to tell
The
you
show's
story.
starting.
Hockey.
Yeah.
We're going to circle back.
Yeah.
I want to tell you the story. So I went Lightning game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was Pride Night.
Yeah.
And they'd already done, a couple players done a video about being, you know, accepting everyone and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So then they go, okay, for Pride Night, to sing the national anthem, the gay men's quartet.
Yeah.
And hundreds of people started to boo.
Oh no.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But immediately, the rest of the arena cheered over the top
Okay,
of
yeah.
it, right? Which I thought, I was really disturbed by that.
Yeah.
You know? So I told that story to my cousin, who's a doctor, just yesterday. And he goes, wow, who would have thought that many people just don't enjoy a quartet? I said, well, I never thought it was the 4-part harmony they were booing. I thought it was the gay thing.
Yeah.
I
They
said,
thought it was the
I
straw
said, well,
hats.
Doc, you
That's-
wrote the fucking punchline. Good for you.
That's
You know,
great.
Yeah. Isn't that
That's
something?
great.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's awesome. Have you tried that yet?
No, I haven't yet because it happened yesterday. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to throw
You're gonna
that
pop
out
it in
here.
there.
Oh, absolutely.
That's great, man.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks a lot for talking to me.
Thank
I
you, buddy.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thanks for always coming and playing.
Thanks for having us. I love it here.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.